This is Bless Radio. It's Tuesday evening, just past 6 p.m. And this is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in Bromley in southeast London. And with me is Gregory. Gregory, are you there?
Hello.
Okay, welcome, Gregory. I guess you're in Brussels as usual?
Yes, I am.
Okay, how's the weather where you are?
Well, a bit bright, a lot of clouds now.
Okay, here it is also bright. There are some clouds, but it's, lovely. I will call it warm today. So welcome to the show, listeners. The name of our show is Spiritual Discussion Program, and the aim is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And we have a new topic every week. The topic for tonight is actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abdushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the readers again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses. Nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abdushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, I just want to remind you the topic we are discussing tonight is actions speak louder than words. It's a very common phrase, and it's good, the times we are in. It's also, I could say, quite relevant. So I thought I'd select that for tonight's topic. So again, actions speak louder than words. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, as I said, the topic tonight is actions speak louder than words. And I just want to read from a bit of my research I've done, let's say in the dictionary. Sort of a good representation of these words. Actions speak louder than words. I'm just going to repeat the meaning again. It's a proverb that expresses the idea that a person's actions are a better indication of their character than what he or she says.
Yes, of course, it's a fairly good representation. However, it does not give the precise meaning of what that phrase conveys. For many, on hearing it, only perceive that which they can see physically. But there is much more that needs to be considered when one's character is to be envisaged.
Thank you for that answer. And I would like to put another one in before we explore that further. Just another thing I found also, again, online. It says, how do you explain actions speak louder than words? And here it is answered, if you say that actions speak louder than words, you mean that people's actions show their real attitudes rather than what they say. And the expression is used sometimes to advise a person to do something positive. So obviously that's what proverbs are all about. They are meant to sort of, how can I say, these are common sayings to sort of encourage us to behave in something that we know is positive, obviously, and something that I just want to explore that actually. These were, as you say, we need to be more precise. The words here are maybe very general, and it's not clear maybe exactly what these words mean, maybe an actions mean, the word action and the words, what does it mean? Is it something physical? Is it something verbal? Is it more than that? And behind these words, there's something you could say, is it in the first meaning, it said character, and here it says attitudes as a second sort of appreciation of this, this phrase. So let's explore it a little, Gregory. Actions. Is it only physical actions, or there's more than that?
Well, it said actions. One needs to have a more inclusive meaning. By that, one is saying a more intuitive meaning of action. That intuitive meaning, taken precisely, will be an activity. These activities must be considered in its holistic nature. When you consider that words is only part of an activity, or when you consider that man is granted 5 senses. One is that of sight, one is that of smell, that is speaking of words. There are others. So when words are spoken, then we're talking of hearing. So of the 5 senses which many are aware of, these senses form what one will refer to a holistic picture of, when one is in operation, when one is engaged in an activity, whatever activity. Therefore, when you consider that you're only taking 1 out of 5 of them, then common sense tells you that when you consider the whole, that whole, which consists of other activities, is greater and is much louder than just 1 of them. And that was where it arose, that activities or actions, they are more pronounced than words. Words which are only parts of an activity.
Again, thank you, Gregory, for expanding this picture of the activity of actions. You can say, you use the word actions speak louder than words, and this actions you've said is actually activity, but it's like a multifaceted activity, or you said inclusive. And you talked about those 5 senses: hearing, speaking, feeling, smelling. Can't think of the 5th one right now. So yes, so those words, those senses is part of the activity. It's just how the activity, you could, that's the environment of the activity. So we just need to be aware of that when we use the word action. And of course, words is only one activity within that environment, you can say. So yes, you can already see that if you have those 5 senses, and words is only concerned in one of the senses, is being used for one of the senses. So you can see that. Now, usually this phrase is more looking at, I would say, the words is just spoken, obviously, and the actions are more the physical, which I could say it involves doing things, the physical results of our words and thoughts. and intentions. So this is actually, this topic is so broad when you consider it. You start want to ask questions about other things as well, which are connected with this topic. So yes, Gregory, there's one main point. I almost want to look at examples to sort of look at this more clearly. Yes, let's say in the news a lot you hear, let's say, politicians or leaders making promises, to, you could say, get elected or to win popularity, and you could say sell a vision, and they have to speak words, and then only when they get into power they can enact these words and show that if they mean it, or or they're not even capable of acting on these words. So and I can see already that this is all inclusive. You can't really separate the words from actions. So what I want to say, when we talk about these actions, Gregory, being louder than words, or speaking louder than words, so let me ask this question really. Is it just merely actions, Gregory, that we just take action, or should there be some, like, behind the action, there should be a vision or some sort of, can I say, like a vision, basically. I can imagine like this. How do we go about taking actions, Gregory? It's like, because it's such a general statement, actions speak louder than words. So should it be, how can I say, I give an example from the pandemic, really. I think that's probably the best way to look at it. So for example, with the pandemic, things have happened with the, let's say, the politicians and leaders have not had to experience it before, so they didn't really know how to approach this situation, and they've had to make decisions and almost take decisions, and then that results in actions, and then they learn almost as they go. And other, let's say, countries have tried to say, in some cases they try to go on a very cautious approach. So is there, Gregory, a particular way how we're supposed to take actions? Are you supposed to, like, as I say, learn as you go, or should it be cautious and weighing every step?
At the beginning of this discussion, one gave a more holistic picture of what action, or albeit an activity, could be. And one must also consider that many a thing one sees that has had effects on our environment, those things have their source or sources somewhere. For instance, it should also be considered that our reflections, our thoughts, these are activities which have some impacts first on ourselves and on our neighborhoods, on our friends, whether we discuss them verbally or we put them in writing. All these things are seen in pictures, in picture forms, or even in songs. Therefore, looked at from the outside, from the earthly point of view, one can see or perceive physical activities. These are actions. behind the physical activities, the motive, that is also an activity. And even in one's quiet reflections, these are activities which before too long will take on form, which forms will now have an impact on our immediate environment before it spreads out. So you find that there is activities everywhere. That activity which we are now basically concentrating on is that which we can perceive physically, whereas the substructure that has brought about what we now perceive physically may not be physical itself. Some of it could be first in our thoughts, even before in our thoughts, in some other realms. So you find that if one intends to look at it from a holistic point of view, actions or activities have two sides. That which has an impact physically, which we can perceive with our five senses, and then to narrow it down, words, which is only one of them. But looking back, all form of activities which had already preceded these physical activities must be taken into consideration. Therefore, it's a very wide field that many have to consider and need to know how to restrain themselves such that in accordance with the laws of creation, which guarantees homogeneity of thoughts, many do not harbor thoughts which are detrimental to others, such that for one other person who may harbor such similar thoughts, but is not firm or disciplined enough, such terrible thoughts have an impact on him or her, and certain activities are then carried out, such as murder, like the shootings you find everywhere. So these things have to be looked into very carefully. And therefore, one can already see that indeed, activities, albeit actions, they have a more severe impact than words.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. The first thing I noted when you were speaking there, that there's an order, and then there's a structure. And each activity, there's so many activities, let's have a certain place. They're being active. Some are physical, some are non-physical. You talk about in thoughts, and then words, and then obviously the physical activities. You can see actions on them. So there are these, and then there's a sequence in which these activities take place. So there is a structure, and which is becoming a really wide field, as you said, to look at. And immediately you start wondering, okay, where do I start here? There is a physical situation that we are here, and there might be something we have to deal with. but then, before you take a action or even a decision, you need to think about it, and it's like there is a process you need to follow, and then, but then it suddenly you have to think, okay, what is this process? What is the structure here? We just do things very automatically, Gregory, on autopilot, you could say, and then yes, we're growing and learning in life, as we do as a child to an adult, but in every part of life. But then it's not always like, you go to school, you get you could say the technical education, but you don't get this thought process education. You don't get this, you could say, I don't know what exactly the word to describe this, you could say knowledge of life, if I can say it that way. It's very broad words, but that sort of things you don't get educated on. It's almost like some of it is built in, it seems, and some of it you have to just grow through experience. So I want to ask really, what should be the guide in how we sort of come to a decision, or what sort of process are we meant to follow to come to, let's say, a wise decision? Let me say it in that way.
Well, these are the many questions which are abound by millions, which, strictly speaking, should be quite simple, what one should do. But as is with everything, whoever wishes to do that which is beneficial and helpful, they must prepare themselves. Such that it's not that, oh, tomorrow you jump up, now I'm in this stage. As with everything, that which you do not yet know, you only need to learn like a child would do a new language by taking in bits and pieces, and in calm confidence, certainly one can then move forward. And in doing that, do not expect to become perfect in the particular language when you have only just started it yesterday. But in firm confidence, interact, engage with that which will be beneficial. In the walk in the light of truth, the author made it very clear when it said, keep the hearth of your thoughts pure. By so doing, one will bring peace and therefore be happy. What he meant by that is that one should strive after purity. One should purify oneself of those terrible thoughts that seem to be attracted. It's as if you are attracting terrible thoughts. That only happens because you yourself must harbor something similar. Else, those terrible thoughts will not approach you. So it is a struggle. Only through severe struggle can one now push away that which one had been embedded in through one's own weaknesses. Therefore, the first step is to try or to strive vigorously to purify oneself such that one does not fall along the line. To help in this, one can find what Christ has said, love thy neighbor as thyself. So one can go on so much with simple examples. By one of the ways to view that love thy neighbor as thyself is to consider that you yourself, you have challenges and you calm down and you survey all sides of this particular challenge. And gradually you overcome this particular challenge. One should not forget that one's neighbor is likely to be in that same scenario. So the respect shown, or the respect that you have shown to yourself, when it is shown to your neighbor, in that scenario, you provide the environment through which you yourself can thrive. So does your neighbor. So in these simple steps in humility and simplicity, one will build an environment around oneself, first in one's thoughts, which will then manifest before too long externally. Then one need have no fear anymore.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory, and painting the picture again of how we can approach life in a, let's say, you use the word holistic way before, and so that, just knowing the context of, what's around, what our life is, and also what the people around us. So it's just, as you say, love thy neighbor as thyself, which is, then you automatically have the right attitude and approach, to look at a situation. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushi. And if you are interested in getting a copy of the Grail Message or want to know more about the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MEESSAGE.com. That's grailmessage.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words. You're welcome to join us with any question or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, I'm you talked about purifying ourselves, um, before, you could say, taking actions or decisions, or, just having that. And does that, so I wanted to look at that. And does that mean being like prayerful in sort of saying a prayer before taking, taking an action? I know some people, it is like a part of the religious education that, let's say, before they step out of the house, they say a prayer. Before they eat, they say a prayer. And at the end of the night, let's say, or when they come home, they say a prayer, thanking, that they've been protected. And then also at the end of the night, like I say, there are hundreds of examples we could give like this. So that's a way to purify yourself, or to have that prayerful attitude to purify yourself?
Very, very far from it. That, strictly speaking, such behaviors have nothing at all to do with purity. Because what has been considered nowadays as prayer has been completely wrongly understood. Before one can go into prayer, like Christ has said, it is watch and pray. To watch only means to keep that innate ability to be able to perceive very intuitively the activities that may be approaching or assailing you, such that in your watchfulness you are able to turn away those activities which are not beneficial to you in maturing spiritually. And in doing that, because you are now able to filter, eliminate those terrible, murderous activities, the power which initially could not touch you, because you had this wall of terrible things forming a dam, because you have now breached this terrible environment around you and reached out to that which is refreshing. You yourself are now able to make use of these refreshing thoughts to build up structures. In building up these fine structures, which fructifies the environment and the environment around others, that, strictly speaking, is praying. And for many, they try one way or the other to do, they try to do that based on the bits which has been able to reach them. But they have not been watchful enough. And therefore, what reaches out to them is putrid, skin, unhelpful. And in their activities, they are filled with fear. Fear alone attracts so very many terrible things, such that they appear very ugly ugly in non-earthly terms. So one must know that to purify yourself, one has to be watchful. It's like nowadays you are told to watch what you eat, watch what you say, because it starts with you. And in accordance with the laws of creation, as long as you give the root for it or the seed for it, then many things will flow towards you. If you yourself harbor the seed for an evil thought, for a selfish thought, for a terrible thought, then only similar or only homogeneous thoughts or seeds will approach you. Whereas if in your struggle you have the seed of pure thoughts, of thoughts which are beneficial, like you have the fresh air which is beneficial, then that which will approach you will also be of upbuilding.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I want to now look at, let's say a realization of decisions and actions. So like an approach how we move forward in our life. And I'm just thinking, when we, let's say, I'm trying to think of an example where we want to achieve something in life. Let's say, the moment in the news, I keep seeing we just had elections within UK, and it seems that the incumbent parties and leaders were successful in getting, getting more seats, you could say, in the UK election here. And we had different countries, England, Scotland, and Wales, where the elections were taking place, and there are different parties who are incumbents there, and he was successful. And in this pandemic, that's seems to have given this opportunity for them to be successful like this, even though it was quite difficult, very difficult time for them, for these parties to govern. So, what I want to look at, Gregory, the decisions were made here, and in many cases mistakes were made, and then overall it seems to have worked out. As you say, beneficially, we look at what is beneficial. The COVID has come down, at least in UK, we can say. I know other countries are still suffering quite seriously, but UK and a few countries, they have managed to bring it down. So my question is there, when we want to do beneficial things, and what I just want to think about this before I just say the question. Yes. Trying to think of this actual situation when I would like to think of an example actually before I, as I say, in many cases in this situation, people have had to learn as they go. They didn't know how to deal with this issue, and they've had to make decisions. And what I want to say, Gregory, yes, let me say another way. Do you, Gregory, when you don't know how to deal with the situation, and you consult with advisors and people around you, is that a way also to move forward in, coming to a decision, coming to a, because everybody has, let's say, they're coming from different angles, and the leader, let's say, prime minister, has to make a judgment for the whole country, what is the best, because as you know, in some decisions, the economy has been hurt, and some people have been socially and health, let's say, have been seriously affected in a negative way. But they have had to, let's say, for the sake of the country, in the overall sort of, to protect the country, and be put in. So when that is, when such a situation arises, Gregory, is it needed to consult others, or is there somehow you just reflect within yourself to find the way forward?
One must be truthful to oneself. Many there are who wish to be leaders. However, the first lesson is to prepare oneself for those who wish to be leaders. Just as someone who wishes to run the marathon must prepare for the marathon, must try to visualize the sort of challenges that marathon is likely to bring. And therefore, one who wishes to be a leader must look within whether really they have those abilities. Which abilities are those firm, good volition, which brings benefit for all, not benefit for a few. They must also consider whether they have true love, not, love for the flesh or love for a certain group of people. Because it is they themselves who chose, who put themselves forward to be elected as leaders. And if someone asks you to do the work of a doctor, to do the work of an engineer, or to do the work of a wrestler, whatever it is, if deep within you are convinced that you are not capable, stay away from it. Then you must ask yourself, is that what the politicians do? If that is not the case, then it means they say one thing and they do another. And it must be stressed that the first step in leadership is that of responsibilities. The buck stops with the person who calls himself or herself leader. For the influx of currents, of many thoughts, have to assail that particular person. The question is, how do you respond to it? If you haven't prepared yourself, how would you respond to that which you haven't prepared for? So it's not that at the last second, once you start speaking to others, asking for advice, For you will choose your advisors in accordance with your inner way of doing things. So, now being at the top, many will choose people like themselves who will not tell them the facts. For those who will give them the facts, they may not take kindly to it. In essence, is that many will have to be very careful when they put themselves forward for a role as a leader. For what you lack, you yourself cannot make use of. Even when others advise how you should move forward, you will have doubts. So at the last minute, one should not expect to now have people who will come forward and advise you. So the question of politics on many occasions is a question based on the lack of ability, hypocrisy at its best, and incompetence in many cases. For all one needs to do is to reflect very carefully. Because you talked about the pandemic, this was mentioned some time ago. In many countries, where there were other leaders who, on hearing the word pandemic, rushed to put things in place, means they didn't have to wait. The caring for their people comes first. And when the challenges came, it did not affect them so adversely as compared to others who, even when they had and were advised, turned it the other way. There is no need to mention names. Each person must judge for themselves. They must learn what leadership means. Leadership, strictly speaking, calls for a fine, intuitive sense of love and of justice. If one does not find these in the activities of whatever personality is there as a leader, then they should not, in quotes, vote for such people. Else, it will be that when the time comes to display those fine qualities, those qualities will not be there, and then they would have made a terrible decision, which one can find has played out in many countries. So objectivity is the key instead of personality as friends.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I was thinking when you were responding to this question that many people who put themselves forward to be leaders, because what you're saying is this role requires you to have humility, and obviously you began with preparation, and but then the people who are putting themselves forward in many cases are, as you've just mentioned, not competent, not qualified in a way for this work, and don't have that humility to say, oh no, I can't do this actually. I should put myself aside. And then there are others who, let's say, who have the quality and the capability, but through him they decide not to even come forward to put themselves forward as a leader. Maybe they feel this responsibility, you mentioned the responsibility is, well, let's say it can be politics can be a dirty business. To win an election, for example, sometimes because of let's say the system to win requires you to have certain number of votes and things like that, and you have to appeal to all these audiences, and if you just speak straight exactly what you think should be the way, you might not win the votes to get you into the power, while others are willing to little bit, let's say, twist their words to get that power, because they think if you're not in power you can't do anything. So it looks like a vicious circle, Gregory. Those who are, you could say, who could be competent and qualified to be this type of leader, think, I don't want to play this dirty game to get into power, so I keep away. And others who say, no, I want this power, and I'm willing to, I was going to use the word flexible. Flexible is not really what I mean, to bend the rules to, or say bend even the truth, if I can say that way, to get into power. So it's like, as I say, a vicious circle. And then, maybe this is a second question, but I just want to mention it as well. The public who's voting for these candidates, because they can only choose from the people who are there, who come forward. And then they have just, the group of people that have come forward don't seem to be, or let's say, don't want to complicate it too much, but let's say that the choice there is not, let's say, the best choice for the public to choose from. They just got whoever's in front of them who is not entirely competent. So my question from that, Gregory, is it possible for to have the right leader in such a situation, really? Because it seems the system is not really set up for that.
Most of the time, many assume that the people or the masses are so stupid. Yes, that may be a statement which may be justified. The key here is you yourself. Like you said, politics may be a dirty game. And yet, one had just mentioned, you must purify yourself. And when you do that, who will want to take himself or herself into the mud when at the same time, to live right, one needs to purify oneself? And it is said only those, what we have to do is to choose what is available. Again, the power of pure thoughts is not even considered. People are human spirits that have, through their intuitive perception, that ability to perceive. Not using that ability is a problem. So one should not think, oh, because anything will happen, well, let's just vote for this particular person. Many a song keeps saying, you can get it if you really want. But you must try. Try and try. And in the process of doing that which is right, you purify yourself and you come to the top at last. There are some who do not even wish to purify themselves. All they want to do is to go there by any means. The end justifies the means, which is catastrophic. Whereas it is the means that may justify the end in the final analysis. It's how you get there. So when many look at others who have, in quotes, money, and instead of them to work hard enough, honestly, they go and pilfer and steal and kill and rape, and in that process, they even encourage slavery, and in quotes, they have the money. Now they turn around and what are you told? Oh, it's a very rich person. But how did that happen? Or you hear the word, oh, it's a prime minister. But how did that happen? Oh, it's a president. But how did that happen? So it is because in our indolence, we refuse to examine anything and learn from it. And like the crowd, you just follow them without asking questions. That has always been the problem. So it's not that when they have made the wrong decision and they now see the incapability of him or her who they have chosen, then they turn around and say, oh, we didn't know. How would you know when you have been going about these things in the wrong way? So it is not a matter of machine learning. The machine will have to just take this, if it doesn't work, go to this, so that when it doesn't work. No, life on earth has to be experienced. No one could go to the hospital to be treated by a doctor, which doctor knows nothing about medicine. But because has bribed this way, now is the head of the medical institution and wants to do the work of a neurosurgeon. Common sense tells us that that is completely wrong. So whoever has been elected to represent you, who lacks these abilities, which could be checked from their lives all the while, then you have the situation that those who ensured that person is at the top have made the wrong bargain. Before too long, they will have to experience everything. The decisions that person has made that has had terrible and negative impact. These leaders, in quotes, are not to be admired, but in most cases pitied for the responsibility which they bear for those people who look up to them to improve the situations in which they all are. These responsibilities are enormous.
Thank you so much for that answer, Gregory. Again, you showed us that we need to really go deeper, not look at the superficial surface, how people are, but what it, look at ourselves actually, and that we are, you could say, sensitive and observant in detecting what somebody says, what even in our thinking to, yes, if somebody's qualified to do this or not, and as you said, using common sense, where you'd only go to the doctor who actually knows what he's doing, not that's why you'll go there to get treated. When it comes to running the government, it says, why would you not use that same common sense there? So, of course, it's quite clear. Thank you for that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. And we are discussing tonight, the topic is actions. Before I do that, actually, let me just say, if you are interested in the Grail Message and want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And you're listening to us on Bless Radio, which is broadcasting on blessradio1.com. Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. Also, we are on YouTube, broadcasting live on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and then type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space, live stream. That's one word. So Bless Radio 1, space, live stream. And you, after the show, the next day, you can hear the recording of this show. Also go to YouTube and then type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1, and then space Grail Message, and then the topic of the show, which is tonight, actions speak louder than words. And if you are interested in taking part in the show with any questions or comments, please contact us on our UK number, which is 07939 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, also I did a bit of research about quotes on actions speak louder than words, sort of inspirational quotes. And I just pick a few of them. I actually found this website which gives 35 different quotes, some of them very similar. So I just want to pick a few of them. If your actions don't live up to your words, then you have nothing to say. And this is from Darshan Stokes. So I must admit, some of the people who have said these quotes, I don't recognize them, but this has been picked by people. So and another one I found, it says, thoughts do more, words do much, actions do much more. And that is Israel More Ayivo. Sorry, I can't say that correctly. Just want to pick a few more. It is, now the thing is not to get into unnecessary quarrels by talking too much, and not to indicate any weakness by talking too much. Let our actions speak for themselves. And that is by Henry L. Stimson. And another couple of them I would like to read more. In leadership, life, and all things, it is far wiser to judge people by their deeds than their speech, their track record, rather than their talk. And that is by Rashid Ogunlaru. And I like this one as well. It's talking about kindness motivates us to be kind. But there are times when the best thing isn't to talk at all, but just to get on out there and be kind. And that's David R. Hamilton. So Gregory, all these examples of sayings of people pointing that actions, I know in the talk discussion tonight we've said action is much more than just what we think physical actions, but it says action basically speak louder than the words. So what I want to ask from that is, When do we yes, I'm just trying to think of this question really. Should we? Yeah, I just want to ask this, Gregory. Is it through people's actions should we know the nature of the person? Because that's what we started earlier. The actions speak louder than words. Is that how we get to know what a person is, their character, their intentions? Do we look for the actions, which is and more than the words?
Many times, one must question oneself why one person needs to know the character of another when he himself or herself has not spent time to understand himself or herself, yet wishes to understand others without giving any thoughts that just as he himself or herself has challenges, so do others. Just as he himself or herself can make errors, so do others. And just as he himself or herself can be joyful and happy, so do others. And in that attitude or taking that state of mind, many an activity would become understandable to him or her. So much so that there will be no need to first understand the character of others, but first to know himself, to purify himself. And in doing that, he himself or herself will become clearer and wiser that it is best to take care of one's own shortcomings before spending time to understand the shortcomings of another. In fact, the grace granted to the human personality to be on earth in order to experience is good enough, sufficient enough, that what he needs to do is to purify or to wash his dirty linen through joyful activities in the support of others. Then many an obstacle which he thought was there will, viewed correctly, was only a challenge to enable him or her to ensure the bandage which had blinded him due to his or her haughtiness, that bandage or that cooled ice will melt. And discussions like this will now lead to personal conviction, in which all the dogmatic ballasts that you find in the so-called scientific or religious circles will dissolve of themselves.
Thank you so much for that answer, Gregory. You've shifted the focus from to others to ourselves. So really, which is in the end, the only thing you can do. You cannot change others. You can only change yourself. And we are, although we haven't mentioned it today so much, but in the previous shows we mentioned that life is a journey. Each personality, his spirit is developing himself. And yes, we interact with other people, and there's support and, you could say, around us through fellow human beings and nature, you can say, and other beings. However, the focus has to be us developing ourselves and purification of ourselves, and rather than looking at others who are, as you say, are just on the same journey, really. They're also developing, they're doing the same thing, just what we are, but we are looking at them rather than ourselves. So that's the real big shift in how we are supposed to be in our focus. Gregory, you've mentioned about the laws of creation a little bit in this show and many times in other shows. And I just wanted to relate that with this topic tonight: actions speak louder than words. How can we align with these laws of creation? What is it that, yes, how can we become aware of these laws of creation? Is it by just, I was going to use the word trial and error through experiencing life, or is there something we can detect? Oh, this is going to work, and this, or that's not going to work. Is there some? So is it trial and error that we are supposed to experience life and grow with that? I need to put that in quotes because not everything is like that. But or is there some way you can just sort of sense something that, oh, this is the way?
As with everything that one had mentioned, there must be a period of preparation in striving to see things in the right manner. So also with the gradual recognition of the laws of nature or the laws of creation, through which every occurrence, every happening is greatly conditioned. That means it permeates all activities. What is key here is that each personality must make a decision, because that is an intrinsic attribute of the human personality. And in making a decision, they themselves must realize that there will be returns. That having made the decisions, a path is then may lead one upwards or downwards or remain at the same level. Those are the three possibilities, no more. And that being the case, it must be very clear to one whether they wish to improve themselves in recognizing the challenges that are out there or not. For these challenges will come. There is no one who can completely predict what the following day will be. But that does not stop people from sleeping and wishing to experience the following day. They still go forward. That is the spirit, that when one has decided to move forward confidently or courageously, they themselves realize that there will be returns. Returns, only the returns of that which they themselves have placed in nature or in creation. It may not come immediately, but certainly it will come. That is that reciprocal activity which is found everywhere, whether it is on living things or on non-living things. That reciprocal activity is always there. And before long, it becomes very clear to them that in their activities, which one may refer to as sowing, they should only sow that which will bring them joys and which will bring them happiness, here or hereafter. So in such experiencing, they will improve. Else, what then happens? In many cases, you might find that they have made decision which is only dependent on that which is physical. And before too long, they feel so sad. The origin of the sadness, they are unable to really identify. Why is this so? Because along the line, they themselves had sown a seed, which at that time may or may not have been very clear to them. But the foreboding of a return, which return may not give them the good fruits which they themselves have wished, makes many very sad. Whereas those who, in quiet contemplation, have always done that which not only benefits them, but also benefits their neighbors, again and again, can look forward in confidence to a brighter life, though filled with challenges. So it is not that one should expect a formula that one can now put in values and immediately, good results come. For the sowing, which is referred to, is not only that which one can see with one's eyes or can hear with one's ears. By sowing, one is referring to a holistic activity, not one-sided, not words alone, but with all that man is. That is what is referred to as experiencing. Prepared to do that which is beneficial and upbuilding, not only for oneself, but also for the whole. That is that which is and must be new for many to attain to a clarification of the mechanisms that keep nature or keep creation afloat.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I was just reflecting, you mentioned things being beneficial, and you could say striving to do things which are beneficial. And then, each person or personality is an individual, and let's say they all want to be, let's say you want to develop your talent in something that you are passionate about, and it could be like an individual talent, like you could say you like guitar and you want, playing the guitar and you could become good in this. And then, and then other things could be beneficial in more working like in a community way, like being a doctor, let's say. or an engineer. I'm not selecting them specifically as one profession. There are many professions out there that are community sort of type of work, you could say. So my question about this, Gregory, is when you are looking for something to develop yourself in, let's say talent or career, what is the basis of your path to that direction that you will follow? Is it just what you want, or something you feel will benefit others? Yes. Is it? How do you come to this decision that because something could be just for your own enjoyment, and others could be for that, which could come out with pure. You could say, I just want to contribute to other people, and so I want to do that. That will benefit other people. So how do we come to that decision?
Such a decision is personal. No two people may follow the same path, and therefore it will not be right to make suggestion that each person must follow. The best one could say is that each person definitely has a talent, which talent must be cultivated. It is deep within the person to sense what these talents are. That is personal. It is no use when somebody comes from outside and say, I think you have this talent, follow it. Of course, it's like children nowadays. You tell the children, oh, I think you have a talent, follow it. Of course, they won't follow it. They will go the opposite way. So the first task for each personality is to observe deep within themselves, albeit intuitively, the path they wish to follow. Not that a parent, a friend, or other have to approach them and say, I think or I sense you have this talent. For children, you might suggest, but before long, they will go their way. Therefore, it will be wrong, even in this discussion, to lay down rules as such. Therefore, one may only suggest as a request to reflect more intuitively as to the role that each individual who belongs to a society, albeit a world society, what roles they themselves need to play in the skills which they themselves have cultivated. First, there is the sensing that one has a skill. That is personal. No other person can come and say, oh, you have this skill. That is personal. Sensing that the skill is there is one. Cultivating that skill is a different thing altogether. So let no one worry about the other, for each one has enough challenges to help to develop the talent which have been granted to the human spirit in order to become self-conscious.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Dear listeners, you're listening to Blessed Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. If you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of it for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And you're listening to us on blessradio1.com, the number one, that's blessradio1, the number one.com. Also, you can listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number one, Bless Radio 1 space live stream. And the show is recorded, and you can listen to the recording of the show also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number one, space Grail Message, and then space the topic of the show, which tonight is actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words. And you're welcome to join us in our discussion with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, there's another thing that's happening in the news in Israel, in Jerusalem. There have been clashes between the Muslim worshippers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque there. They're going for prayers there for Ramadan. Hundreds of people there, maybe 1,000. And the Israeli police, there's been some sort of clash going on. And many hundreds have been injured. And then in retaliation from Palestine, Hamas has been firing rockets back, and of course Israel retaliating back as usual. So that's been going on. And what I wanted to say with regard to the topic tonight, action speaking louder than words, a lot of words are spoken, a lot of actions are taken, which are really just, which is just basically not bringing about any peace, rather deaths and suffering. And of course we know this situation has the clashes and the troubles have been there for many decades. And there's also, so what my question is, Gregory, how can peace be achieved when both sides seem to have such antagonism? How can peace be achieved when both sides have antagonism?
The question that relates to peace on many occasions or scenarios are considered as activities in which there is no violence. Of course, once there is no violence and there is upbuilding, then one can speak of peace. But in that place, are the parties ready for peace? These are the questions which one must ask. Where rigidity is the order of the day, then it only means that the participants in that space are not ready, and very little can be done about it. For when one examines, these are close neighbors. Which neighbors will strive to live without violence? So in discussions like this, it is not us to bring them to the table, because each party must be ready to engage, to understand the challenge of the other. Only on such a basis can there be a start, which start will, in steps, lead to peace. Secured peace, not peace brokered by politicians. For some of these activities which are referred to, is not real peace, which, in quotes, peace could break down with the smallest misunderstanding. That type is not durable. The peace which is durable is this peace which has come out from human spiritual activities. Only that respects the other party. As long as there is not just one person there, then in a given space, it has to be that's one for all and all for one. And since that is not contemplated, then there is no durable, peace. Moreover, the structure which have been put in place by whatever parties are based on religious grounds. Which religions, the interpretations, the meaning, the understanding, which they all lack. And therefore, they hold on superficially on those things which they do not understand. It cannot be otherwise. Because you don't understand it, you hold the superficial part of it and keep fighting. It is said, an eye for an eye. For many who do not have any understanding of these things, if you wrong me, I must also wrong you. If you hit me, I must also hit you. Again, the wrong interpretation of what has been passed on to both parties is the cause of the misunderstanding. For what do you call a place? Many hold a place as holy. Then you ask yourself, how can a place be holy when you yourself desecrate that place with your activities? After all, consider the topic. Actions speak louder than voice, or than words. So, the desecration in their thoughts, in their intuitive sensing, in the fights, that place cannot be holy because it has been desecrated again and again. So, what do you expect? Therefore, it is unnecessary, unhelpful to even focus on that which is so simple. What has been held up as holy has been the most abused place from time. And the participants in that scenario show lack of respect for not only themselves, but for others.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory, and explanation. from what you have said, it's like people are far from what is required to achieve peace, and because peace, you said one for all and all for one, and I just can see that let's say you said parties. Let's say there are two parties, and they have like their fixed views and ideas about one being right and the other one being wrong, and that's like a final decision in their head that this is how it's supposed to be. So obviously, basing all their actions and decisions from this attitude and premise, they can never achieve it. Only something has to shift from this idea that there have to be, as you see, two parties, because your fundamental thing is there must be all for one and one for all. And at the end of the day, they are neighbors, they are sharing this place. Otherwise, it's going to be one getting rid of the other one, which are obviously they have never achieved, and they're not likely to achieve, to evacuate the other people. So it looks like it's going to be a long struggle for this to, if they're able to achieve any peace. So thank you for that. Just to go back on it a little bit, Gregory, is it possible from the, because you can only build from what you already know and what experience you've had. So can is it, first of all, what I want to ask, Gregory, is it do they need to refresh apply the knowledge that they understand properly what they have, the beliefs that they have and the attitudes they have? Do they need to examine that as such, or and if so, is it from what can they do it from what they have, or do they need something from outside, some new sort of a new knowledge, you could say, or something new has to be shown to them that will allow them to change their ways, basically?
May I ask, who are the they?
The they are the two parties that we are referring to in Israel, and the Palestinians and the Israelis. They seem to be opposing each other. So, and what I'm saying is that they have particular views, fixed views and attitudes, and can they change themselves to become, so basically the idea is to become all for one and one for all. But for me, I can only see them as separate, because they only believe that one side they are right and the other side is wrong, and both parties have the same concept. So from that, it's impossible, from what if I paint the picture in this way, it looks impossible to have peace as long as they're like this. So how could they unite, you could say, from this situation? It looks like something revolutionary has to take place to overcome this.
What is revolutionary which they need to have to overcome it is a change of attitude, which is not so challenging. If you live in an area which you claim belongs to you, then you must ask yourself, this earth has been here before the human spirit incarnated, and before long it comes in one form or another as a human being in one place of the earth and in another place of the earth in order to experience. In so-called one religion, maybe as a Jew, maybe as a Gentile, maybe as an Arab, maybe as a Muslim, maybe as a Christian. These are basic facts. And yet, consider the scenario where a group made of individuals, individual personalities, say that a particular place belongs to them, which place before long they will have to shed their physical body and leave that neighborhood. And yet they hold on to it, they argue about it. The purpose of incarnating on earth to improve themselves by understanding first the challenges that they go through such that they can change their inner attitude. That is wasted. The grace is wasted. The second part, in understanding to some extent the challenges of others, that is wasted. All because they have refused to seek the inner peace which is durable. Therefore, you now have a scenario which is not durable in peace, that each is prepared to start violence in the shortest possible time because they lack the understanding. If they had it, then there will be no war. There will be no violence. For each one knows that it has come here on earth to experience just like the others. And therefore, they should either walk side by side, supporting one another, not destroying one another. After all, is it not said in their religious beliefs, written out clearly, thou shalt not kill? The question has to be put to them who are prepared for war, because they lack the understanding of what durable peace really is. The enemy is not the one on the other border. The enemy is within. The complete wrong interpretation of what has been passed on to them and which they themselves refuse to question until it becomes too late. All such should be left alone. Through their experiences, they may become awake here or hereafter. But in the refusal to become awake, they will commit atrocities, which atrocities will drag them to the deepest depths. For hatred, animosity, wickedness have arisen in the souls of these participants. They only need to be pitied.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I want to talk about words now, because we have talked a lot about actions, and well, we have talked about words as well. We have words in literature, in poetry, and they're so inspiring us to things, and obviously they're used in speeches to. We're talking about voting in leaders and so on. So Yeah, so my question about that is, okay, even if we see it in social media and so on, uh, what I want to say, Gregory, we know actions, physical actions. We talked about violence that can hurt, and so my question is, can words hurt more than physical actions? Uh, Especially, we notice some young people, they are influenced um, by things happening around them, and like they're watching TV and things like this, or watching stars and so on. And so, yeah, can words have a greater impact than even the physical actions and harm more or inspire?
It has been stressed again and again that words are only part of the facade of activities. However, sometimes words can be the starting point, which can now trigger other emotional activities. And you might find in the case of words being put into a song can help to inspire many. After all, there are words like insults, wickedness. These words paint a picture of a scenario where disharmony and the scenario of, imbalance is the key. Such words that can easily insult somebody, or those who allow those words to touch them, you find it precipitates certain activities which, if it had been ignored, would not have arisen. So many only need to think a little about words and activities. They should not spend time on comparing words and comparing activities. For a word is also an activity. This time, an activity of speech. But in their striving, they must, on the long run, envisage things in more of an all-inclusive, holistic, and intuitive way. That pattern will be of more benefit than holding on to words only.
Thank you for that, Gregory. We've come to the end of the show, listeners, and I would like to end with a reading from the Grail Message. It's the beginning of the Grail Message, and it's titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and star. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call, in accordance with his Creator's will, sorry, I'm going to read that again. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all the obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Apprushin. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wish them a beautiful week.
Thank you. And dear listeners, thank you for listening to the show tonight and joining us. Just to remind you, you can get a copy of the Grail Message or get more information on the Grail Message by going to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And as usual, we'll be back next Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. with another topic, and look forward to you joining us again. I wish you all a great week. God bless. Take care, everybody. All the best to you. Bye now.